Alright, so I want to take a quick look at the overall radar picture here. Hold on. Actually, you know what? We could probably do this at AccuWeather. So let's just zoom out. So here's your overall view. So the tornado warned storm is in this complex over here. Then this line shifts backward into Oklahoma and then across Texas, all of central Texas. You have it's a broken line of storms, but there are supercells forming within these lines of storms. And actually, I think down in Texas, I think these cells are starting to strengthen some more. So Dallas and Fort Worth, you're going to have to watch out. Back down towards San Angelo here, you have more severe storms, so large hail damaging winds. And I really think some of these storms are going to start to rotate. So I think there's going to be a very defined tornado threat across Texas, Oklahoma. Missouri, there's already a tornado warned storm developing. Arkansas and northwestern Louisiana for the rest of today. That's going to be where your main tornado threat is. Now, we've looked at current conditions, and again, look at this. You got snow on the northwestern side here. As your cold front continues to move through and along the dry line here, that's going to enhance some of these storms. I think more storms are going to start to form as this cold front starts to move through. You might get a squall line to form with embedded supercells that'll be capable of producing extremely large hail and damaging winds and some tornadoes. I still think there's going to be quite a few tornadoes on the ground throughout the rest of today. Alright, let's take a look at dynamics now. Well, first we'll take a look at the setup. We'll actually show you the disturbance. Alright, so we're looking at the American model now. Phone's not focusing here. There we go. So look at this trough. You see this here? This is the trough moving through that is creating your threat for severe weather today. To take a look at how potent this trough is. This is just a really strong shortwave, really strong. So what you have here is this trough is going to continue to swing eastward, and your main threat for severe weather is on the eastern side of this trough and the southeastern side of this trough. So you can see how central Texas, eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, Missouri, back through Illinois, and northwestern Louisiana, they're all on the eastern and southeastern side of this trough moving through. Here's your area of low pressure, dragging its cold front across like that, like so. Okay, and then your dry line once again extends across central Texas and central Oklahoma, and that is also aiding in development. So this trough is going to continue to swing east throughout the day and northeast into tonight. So now we're into tonight, and then this low to the north starts to close off. But again, tomorrow I think there's going to be another severe threat on the eastern side here. But this will be out of here by tomorrow for these areas that are currently getting severe weather. And then it swings on through, swings out. Now, you can kind of see here how there's a bit of a negative tilt to the trough. So, again, that's why it's pulling in moisture on the eastern side. You have a strong low-level jet. I don't know where I put it here. Here it is. So, we looked at the disturbance that's going to be causing that. You have a lot of wind energy there, and wind equals energy that the thunderstorms can use, as AccuWeather meteorologist Bernie Rayno always says. So the next part, so we talked about Cape here. Your strongest Cape values across eastern Oklahoma. Eastern Texas, central and eastern Texas. Eastern Oklahoma. Arkansas, Louisiana, and then up into Missouri. Those are your strongest Cape values. I think your large hail threat is going to be most prevalent across central and eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Louisiana, and then western Arkansas, and maybe into Missouri. But in this general area here, that's where you're going to get the biggest hail. Outside of here, it's going to be less of a big hail threat and more of a damaging wind and tornado threat, actually. So where you see the yellows, the reds, that's where your biggest large hail threat is going to be. For hail up to the size of, baseballs, or maybe even bigger than that. So watch out, big hail. Big hail. But looking at your low-level jet, look at where your strongest winds are with this. Your low-level jet is more potent on the eastern side here, across Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri, and Arkansas in this area. So this is where you're going to have a big threat of heavy rain because it's pulling in moisture. And the low-level jet, also what it does, so you have winds in the lower atmosphere gusting up to 50 to 55 knots here, 40 to 55 knots. That's a pretty good low-level jet. And what that does, once again, is, one, it advects moisture in so that the storms can produce heavy rain, and that increases instability in dew points. The moisture increases the dew points, so more moisture and instability as well. And then the other thing that does is it adds to the wind shear, and you need shear for the storms to develop and rotate. You need directional shear. So I'll go over this again. I went over it last night, but I'll do this again. At different levels of the atmosphere, the winds move in different directions. So at the surface, the winds are moving in one direction. In the middle levels, they're moving in another direction. And in the upper levels, they're moving in a different direction. And that's called directional shear. And the low-level jet adds to that because it actually adds to the... the low-level jet would probably add more to speed shear, which is as you go higher, the winds increase in intensity. So you need directional shear and you need speed shear, because both things increase the intensity of the supercells to develop, and directional shear specifically helps the updrafts of the supercells to rotate, and that aids in tornado development. So the low-level jet adds to shear, it adds to instability and moisture. So it's actually more prevalent not in Texas and Oklahoma, but in Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, and Mississippi and Louisiana there, north areas here. So you might actually have a bigger threat of tornadoes in this area here. There's still going to be a threat of tornadoes across eastern Texas and Oklahoma, but also if you have a strong low-level jet in these areas by this evening, then there's also going to be a pretty big tornado threat across Tennessee, Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and Mississippi, and maybe even Alabama if these storms make it that far east. And then a little bit further north as well, you have a stronger low-level jet over the Ohio Valley, although severe weather might not make it that far east tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Okay, so we talked about CAPE. We talked about the low-level jet. We need to talk about dew points. So the other thing you need is you need that moisture to be advecting in. That low-level jet helps with that. So you see anywhere in the yellow and brown, you have dew points of 60 to 65 or higher. So that's really good. So you have a lot of low-level moisture coming in. And then you can see where your dry line is. Starting across southern Oklahoma here, extending back across central Texas, this is your dry line. All of this behind that is dry air, warm, dry air coming in. And so you can see where your dry line is, and that moisture coming up ahead. This clash here creates instability. And so you get dry line thunderstorms to form on the eastern side. So your main initiation is going to be the cold front up to the north and east, which is still very strong storms up there as well. And then down to the south, the dry line will aid in storm development across Texas for the most part. And there is another section of the cold front coming through that's going to shift the dry line to the east throughout the rest of tonight. So the storm threat will continue to shift east as well. And then you have temperatures. So you can see your cold front is kind of like this. Okay? So you can see where the cold front is. This is all warm temperature. Your cold front is back like that. But you need warmth for storms to develop. And look at all this warmth. These are temperatures in the 70s and 80s. And then back across southern Texas, approaching 100. A lot of warmth here. So what I'm trying to say is all of the ingredients are here for a big severe weather outbreak, and it is currently happening. And then the last thing is I told you there's this thing called the Energy Helicity Index, and what the Energy Helicity Index does is it takes into account your shear, your directional shear that needs to be present for the updrafts of the storms to rotate, and it takes into account the cape, because you need the cape there so that storms form off the surface and they form vertically. So you have that speed shear that's helping the updrafts to become stronger. You have the warm air advecting into the updrafts, and they form closer to the ground. And that means you would get a tornado to form close to the ground. So the EHI takes into account that and the directional shear, and it gives you a value that helps you to assess the amount of rotation that exists in the atmosphere that would be conducive to produce tornadoes. And this is by this evening, this is what our EHI values are going to be most prevalent. So anywhere in the blue, the yellow, and the green, and the orange, you have a lot. There's going to be a lot of rotation in the atmosphere by this evening. So eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, all of Arkansas, southern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, western Mississippi, and then western Louisiana. This entire area is going to have a threat for some tornadoes through this evening. So you've got to watch out. This is really big. There's a very potent threat here for tornadoes. These storms today are going to be life-threatening in some areas. So you're going to have to watch out. This is a full-fledged outbreak of severe weather. So you can see all the ingredients are there. I talked about everything that's going to be present. So this is it. This is huge. I think we haven't seen a lot of tornadoes yet. I think there's going to be at least a dozen tornadoes through tonight. At least a dozen, if not more. Will they all be strong and damaging? Probably not. But I think there's the chance of seeing some damaging tornadoes, especially across areas where these EHI values are the highest. Eastern Texas, and the low-level jet is even more prevalent further east. So there you go. This is the same map from last night. I'm not changing it. It's the same. Again, your biggest tornado threat, eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas maybe. Kansas isn't really going to see too much. Then you have Missouri and Arkansas, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwestern Mississippi, northwestern Louisiana. This is your main threat for large hail and tornadoes, as well as damaging winds. Okay? Let's take a look at cities that are going to be at risk. Okay, so starting in Texas, Austin, there are some storms moving your way. San Antonio, there are some storms moving your way, so you're in the threat in Texas. Waco, Texas, you're in the threat area. Houston, you're in the threat area as well. Fort Worth and Dallas, you have storms moving your way right now, so watch out there. Let's see, Wichita Falls, I think you're in it. You're on the western edge. Ardmore, Oklahoma, you're on the northern edge. You could get some severe storms. Jasper, you're in it. Jasper, Texas. Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're in it. Little Rock, Arkansas, you're going to be in the threat. Shreveport, Louisiana, you're in the threat. New Orleans and Baton Rouge, you kind of escaped the main threat, but you could see some storms later on tonight. Going into Missouri, Jefferson City, you're in it. Kansas City, you're in it. St. Louis, you're in it. Springfield, you're in it. Then going into Illinois, it's going to stay south of Chicago, but the southern portion of Illinois, you're in it. Paducah, Kentucky, you're in it. Then into southern Indiana. Columbus, Indiana, you're in it. Indianapolis, might make it to you, not really sure. Maybe later today. Nashville, Memphis, Tennessee, you're in it. Jackson, Mississippi, you're in it for later. And I think I covered everybody. So there you go. That's your threat for today. So watch out for those storms. Again, large hail, damaging winds, and possible tornadoes, and heavy rain as well. So stay up to date if you're in these areas. Maybe we'll do another update later when this ramps up some more.